Welcome to the Nspire U Network. I'm Al Wheaton, joined by Candace Houston. Hello, Candace.
How are you?
I am great. You know, it's election time, and we are here to inform as we always do, and I think we have a great forum set up today.
I agree.
We have some young ladies joining us today to talk about the importance of voter outreach and how you can get educated. Keep in mind, the purpose of this forum is to prepare and educate voters for the upcoming election, November 3rd. We are not endorsing any particular party's platform or beliefs, and we welcome all viewpoints and opinions here at the Nspire U Network. So are you ready to go, Candace?
I am ready. Let's hear from these wonderful ladies.
Oh, they are dynamic. Joining us today, we have the following individuals. Taquita Wynn serves on the State Coordinators Committee for the Alabama Poor People's Campaign. She is a graduate of Leadership Mobile, class of 2019, and a retired military officer who served 20 years in the United States Coast Guard. She's going to speak with us today about voter registration and restoration of voting rights and voter suppression, things of that magnitude. Also joining us, Aisha Davis Williams. She's the vice chair of the Mobile County Democratic Executive Committee and a social worker with the Sickle Cell Association of America Mobile chapter. She has provided over 20 years of case management services and community engagement to at-risk communities and underserved population, and is a member of Faith in Action, the Mobile Hub. She's going to speak to us about absentee ballots and the process of how that works and how you can make sure your ballot and information is turned in enough time. And lastly, joining us is Shalila Dowdy. She is a military academy liaison officer in the inactive Ready Reserves, where she holds the rank of captain. She works as a field organizer for the Alabama Democratic Party and is an active member of the Atlanta branch of the NAACP. She was graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point and served 6 years in the United States Army as an active duty and as an air defense artillery officer and human resource officer. She's going to talk to us today about the actual ballot and amendments that may appear on the ballot. Candace, a lot of people don't realize there are some amendments on the ballot this year.
Yes, and let me tell you, I can remember when I first started voting and I saw those amendments and I was like, wait a minute, I thought I was just voting for people.
Right.
What is this? You know, so the fact that these ladies are taking their time to explain that, I think is just invaluable. I mean, there's no way that you can put a price to that. And we just appreciate you being here because there's so much on that ballot and people can get overwhelmed. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
You really do need to do your homework. And that's why we're here, because in the great state of Alabama, with the Constitution that we have, sometimes we have amendments on the ballot that will actually have you scratching your head. So we'll find out a little more about that later on. Ladies, let's get ready and get right into it. Up first, we're going to pose this question to Taquita Wynn. She's going to talk about voter registration and the restoration of voting acts. Talk about, I guess, simply right now, what does it take to register to vote in the state of Alabama?
Great question, and very important question. Thank you so much for having me this morning. It's good to be with all of you. To register to vote here in Alabama, there are a few different ways we can do it. We can go online, we can go in person. We also have the Secretary of State has created an app. So you can go on Google, Android, or iPhone and download the Vote for Alabama app. If you want to go online, this is alabamainteractive.org. This information that I'm providing to you for voter registration will be shared at the end. So please be patient and you can write it down at the end of the segment. But you can go to alabamainteractive.org to register online. You can also go download the app and go vote. It's Vote for Alabama. And then you can also go into the probate office at 151 Government. It's between Mardi Gras Park and Government Plaza. Easy to find, free parking. You can go in, get your registration form right there on site and fill it out and turn it in. You can also call. That information will be listed below, after this as well. You can call in and say, hey, I need a registration form. And they will send you one. They will mail you one. And then you can complete it and put it in the mail. So there's really a bunch of options for you to complete your registration. You have until October 19th to complete your registration. What is a key thing to note in regards to voter registration is the young adults, the youth that are coming up now graduating this year, that are turning 18. If you are going to be 18 before November 3rd, not October 19th, which is the deadline to register, you can register at age 17. As long as you're going to be 18 on November 3rd, you can vote. So please have your child register to vote before October 19th if their birthday is before November 3rd. In regards to status, if you're not sure what your voting registration status is, you can also go to the Secretary of State's website. It is myinfo.alabamavotes.gov. You can go and check your voting registration status. It's real easy. You put your name and your birth date in. It'll tell you your precinct of where you live. It will also tell you where you're going to go vote. It'll tell you if you're in the city, it'll tell you who your city councilman is. It'll tell you who your school board representative is, your Senate, state Senate, and House representative. All that information is under myinfo.alabamavotes.gov. So if you need to find out whether or not you're registered to vote, that is the place to go. And also with them, with Alabama, as recent as the last election, they have purged a lot of voters from the rolls. So if you did not vote in the last election, I highly recommend that you go to that website and check your status. Don't just assume that you're registered to vote. You need to go and confirm that information. And then in polling places, if your polling place has changed, you will know that information listed here on that site as well. So know where you will vote. I'm sorry.
Let me ask you this. When you say status and voted in the last election, are you talking about the midterm election in 2018 or the general election in 2016?
Either one. They have been purging people from the rolls based on address changes and other stuff that's really not even prevalent. You can have an address change and they shouldn't have to purge. They shouldn't purge you from the rolls. Right. But they are doing it. And I can't remember the numbers now, but when we were doing the 2016 election, the numbers were super high for Mobile County. In the state of Alabama, I think we had the highest amount purged from the rolls in Mobile County. So please go to the website, check your registration to see if you have registered, and then check your polling place. Make sure it's the same place that you've always gone. If you have moved, it doesn't matter if you have moved, but just check your polling place so you know exactly where to go. You can also change your address in that same website. You can change your address if you have moved, and they will give you an updated card in the mail that will tell you where to vote again and who all your representatives are.
Okay, some may feel that purging of the rolls could be a quote unquote act of voter suppression. We know that restoration of voting rights for those convicted of certain crimes and those not being able to get their right to vote back, or they thought they had it, but then they didn't. Can you talk about suppression by those means, especially the restoration of rights for those who are convicted?
Yes, absolutely. So in 2017, Alabama passed a law. I can't think of the name of it, but they passed a law in 2017 identifying 46 crimes of moral turpitude. So these crimes, they're saying, if you've committed any of these 46 crimes, you have lost your right to vote. Now, you can go to ACLU's website, Alabama Civil Liberties Union website, to find that information out. Again, that will be at the end of this segment. You can also check that out. But Alabama Civil Liberties Union has the information for you to restore your voting rights. But they passed a law, Alabama passed a law in 2017 identifying those people that have committed crimes that they are saying you don't have the right to vote. Now, if you look at that list and the crime that you had committed is not on that list, you never lost your right to vote. You can vote right now. You need to go register and get your ballot if you're going to do absentee or what have you, but you can register. You did not lose your right to vote. If it's not one of those 46 crimes. If it is one of those 46 crimes, you can have your voting rights restored. And there is a process to do that, but you can have your voting rights restored. And you can go to the Alabama Board of Parole, Board of Pardons and Paroles, and they will help you complete the information so that you can get your certificate of eligibility for your right to vote. Even those that are on the list that they're saying you cannot vote, you can request a pardon and get your voting rights restored. So there is a way to restore voting rights for those here in Alabama. Now, you do have the requirement of paying your restoration fees. There's fines and fees associated with these crimes, and you have to pay them before you're able to restore your voting rights. But once you call the Board of Pardons and Paroles, they will be able to tell you if you have any fines or fees and get you rolling in the process of helping you restore your voting rights.
Okay, well, Ms. Wynn, we appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Al, how long does that process, do you have any idea how long that process takes? Like if they go and they're talking to the parole officer, do they get that certificate right then, or is there a waiting period?
Yes, there is a waiting period, and unfortunately, the time frame for this election is beyond the amount of time that they will be able to get that. It's like 30 days, and we have experienced times where there is difficulty getting that information back. So you need to follow up. It is incumbent upon the person that is trying to get their rights restored to call to say, hey, it's been 30 days. I haven't received anything in the mail. What's my status? But you have to follow up with them because this is not a priority for them. It should be a priority for you because it's your right.
Right. And even though we're beyond the point for this election, we do have the municipal election coming up in 2020.
Absolutely. It's
Right.
definitely important to go ahead and get that ball rolling now so that you are prepared for the municipal elections coming up next year.
Great information, Ms. Wynn. We appreciate it. And at the end of the broadcast, we will have those websites up so our viewers can take note of them. Candace, I think we're ready for our next participant, but I have something I want to show you. Do you see that?
I see that.
How did I get that, Candace?
How you got that?
How? We haven't even voted yet. How can I have a vote sticker?
Tell us.
Well, I myself, a couple of Mondays ago, went to the probate office in Mobile County, the county I reside in, and I petitioned for an absentee ballot in person. And I voted in person. I checked it off. I sealed it up. I watched the clerk secure it, notarize it, and put it in the special little area that they have. So I am one of the 4 million that have already voted in the November 3rd. And as my mama say, this the one that put him in.
Yep. Very good. Thank you for that information, because there are a lot of people that don't realize that that can be done. So if that's something, you know, if you're concerned about the lines being long and the COVID-19 and all of that, go ahead and vote now. Thank you, Al, for that information. So, Miss Aisha Davis, again, she's with the Mobile County Democratic Executive Committee, and Aisha is going to talk to us about absentee ballots and the process. Ms. Davis?
Hey, thank you for having me on. Good morning, everyone. As far as who can apply for an absentee ballot application, as Ms. Taquita has discussed, you must be a registered Alabama voter. Once you are a registered voter, you are eligible to apply for the application for absentee ballot. Okay, just like Mr. Al was speaking of, there are two different ways that you can actually engage in this process. That's in person or by mail. The deadline to do either in person or even by mail is October the 29th. Now, what we don't want to do, and I am urging people, do not try to request a ballot by the deadline of October the 29th, because what will happen, you will receive that ballot in the mail long as you are eligible, but you will not be able to get it back into that office unless you actually take it in and drop it and hand deliver it. And when I say hand deliver, you can't let mama take it in, a husband take it in. You have to hand deliver it yourself and have your ID. That's the only way that ballot will be election day. It will be counted afterwards, but then it will be considered a provisional ballot, okay? And that's what we want to avoid. I want to talk a little bit, Mr. Al, about the process of filling out this calls on people and from people not really understanding this process. Can you guys hear me? Because my computer's
yes.
Okay. And so, needless to say, on this application it asks you for your information, for is your name, your address. Please, when you're putting your address on here, make sure it's the address that is on your driver's ID or your non-driver's ID. So even if, just say you were displaced or whatever, I'm staying over with my cousin due to Sally did some damage at my home, so I'm not at my home right now. You're still going to put the address that is on your ID, second line, but on the third line, you're going to put where you're temporarily staying. So even just like if you're out of the country because of military duty or whatever, wherever you are, you will put that on that third line because that's where that ballot will be mailed to. Okay. On the fourth line, it asks about your polling precinct. Just like Mr. Quita discussed, there are ways to go and find out your polling location, and that's through the State of Secretary website. For me, an easy go-to is always putting in alabamavotes.gov. It's going to take you directly to what Ms. Wynn was talking about, and you can go there and find your information. What's important is every election, it's good to go on there and check. So I'm going to be honest with you. I have made sure my daughter has done one of these applications since she's been away in college, and she was on there as inactive. Okay? So I had to send her downtown to get that corrected to make sure that she votes and is able to vote in this election. We can't take anything for granted these days, because just like people mess up, these computers mess up too, okay? So it's always good to go out there and make sure that your information is accurate, as well as your polling site. I've had people to call me during a municipal election and ask me, you know, my place is one, I go in there and check and it's a whole different place, okay? And so we have elderly people in our community with limited transportation. And so we need to get this education out so we don't have people driving all around. I've actually heard of people waiting to the last minute to go to the polls and going to the wrong precinct and was not able to place a vote, okay? So we need to know that. And that's why we're on here giving out that information. Real important for you to write down those websites that Ms. Wynn is talking about so that we can know to go back and check this stuff before actual election day. Okay, we have certain reasons why they have given you the ability to place a absentee ballot. In other states, but not good old Alabama, a lot of times, other states allow us to early voting. We don't have that privilege, okay? But we do have absentee voting. So some of the reasons that you can apply, even pre-COVID, for an application, say if you have a child off in college or away, you have someone, you or your spouse is out of the area due to military. If you have a physical illness or infirmity that may prevent you from attending the polls, if are working a shift. We know the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Right.
So if you know you cannot get off of work or it's going to be a stretch, you can apply for an absentee ballot. So say that your son or yourself ends up doing something and you're in Metro jail, but you have not been convicted, okay? You can apply for an absentee ballot. If you have a family member that you're taking care of that is totally incapacitated and you cannot leave the home, you can apply for an absentee ballot, okay? Also, I got a question on this because a lot of people are getting mixed up, and we'll talk about that. I actually have an example of when they send you the ballot at home, but a lot of people get mixed up at the bottom. They ask you for 2 witnesses. The only time you have to have 2 people witnessing this application is if you are signing by X, okay? Everybody does not know how to sign. Sometimes we assume that everybody does. But if a person signs with an X or a mark, then they must have this witness. Other than that, this is not necessary. I actually got a call on that this week. In order to get one of these, you can call the absentee manager. Her name is Aileen Barnett. And her number is 251-574-6400. Again, that's 251-574-6400. And we will be able to send you one of these out to you. Also, if you have email, you can feel free to call me. My phone has been these last couple of months. Feel free to call me and I will get one to you. My number is 251-622-7978. Now, going further, this is the same application that Mr. Al had to fill out when he actually went in person. The good thing about going in person, you do it all at one time, okay? Right. When you request this and have it mailed back to you, you will receive in the mail this wonderful packet. Looks like this, okay? Now this is one reason, and I want to thank Miss Shalala. She has stepped in and worked hard with me to follow up out of the people that we've been out in the community working with, getting them to complete these applications. One thing that I really like to drive home to anyone that is helping someone or assisting with the absentee application process, and people are unwilling to even go downtown to 151 and put it in person, let's make sure that we following up with these people and making sure that they actually receive these back in the mail. Okay? I've had some people where a husband and wife have filled out the application, one got it and one did not. Okay? And there are mechanisms in place that you can check to see what happened with this ballot, okay? When you get it, it's not just easy, cut and dry. You have several little processes. You're gonna get this light color instructions sheet. You must follow it, 1 through 7, and make sure that you're doing it correct. You will receive, the ballot, the same ballot that you will receive if you went in person on vote. Amendments on the back, you will receive that in vote. You are to circle it just like you would at the poll. You have a nice secrecy envelope. You must put that in the secrecy envelope. Then you have what you call the affidavit. You have to place the secrecy envelope that now has your ballot in it in the affidavit, and then mark on there why you have applied and are putting in an absentee ballot, okay? You must have it notarized, or if you are unable to have it notarized, you must have it witnessed by 2 people. And that can be 2 other people in your household, your neighbor, whoever, but they must witness that this is your ballot. Then you're gonna place it in this envelope and get it in the mail. I suggest you take it in, make sure it's weighed, make sure the right postage is on it. It's usually $1.20, and get it on back in. It is a way to go on the website, on that same website, to check and make sure that that ballot has been placed, okay? One thing I want to urge, that if any community groups are viewing this segment, that when you're out there doing this, these voter registration drives and all this stuff, it's really pertinent that we follow up with people, because it's one thing to help people register vote, help people to do an absentee ballot application, but if their ballot is not counted, to me, everything that we have done is in vain. We want to make sure that people's votes are counted.
Right.
Thank you so much, Ms. Davis. That was great information, because it can be confusing. And I just want to go back to the precincts, you know, because like back during the 2017 municipal election, there was a lot of that where people were going, you know, to a certain place to vote, and they were being told this is not where you voted, and they had just voted there in the previous election. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because viewers, we want you to understand, go ahead and check ahead of time. Even if you voted in the last election, even if you feel like you're 100% sure, do that last check so that you don't get to election day and you're not able to vote because of those issues. So again, thank you, Ms. Davis.
Something I wanted to get her to expound on is I live in the county of Mobile, and often I never vote in municipal because I'm in the county, but I have even had my precinct changed depending on what type of election. Briefly, can you explain that to the viewers, as Candace was just talking about? Because if it's a municipal election, you may vote at one place, but if it's a state or national election, you may have to vote at another place. Can you explain why that happens?
Yeah, Ms. Wynn may be able to expound on that. I do not know what the legal ramifications and why they choose to do that. And you probably don't want me to tell you why I think they do it, but because I think it's a confusing process.
It is.
And that's why we must, because I've had people, I've had someone that lives in the same household, the same address, and they vote at a different precinct. They live in county. So how they decide that, I do not know. I just think it's very important to always check your information. I tell people to, I just pulled up, and I wish, I'm sorry, Miss Candace, that we could have done the screen share, but I know we're going to put the information in the end. But if you can't see, this is my iPhone, you can't see it. But if you go to alabamastate.gov, no, alabamavotes.gov, it comes up for your voter registration. You can look at that. You can look at your election information, your actual voting information far as the precincts. It actually has a scroll down button so that you can select whether it's a municipal election, whether it's a general election, and it would tell you exactly what your polling, where you're supposed to go and vote, okay? Mm-hmm. There is something else, Mr. Al, that I did skip over because you're voting in person. And we have to give it up to our Black Caucus leaders, especially State Representative Barbara Drummond. She was very profound in getting us the ability to be able to go to the courthouse and vote on Saturday. Now, we had it scheduled for 3 Saturdays. However, because of the storm that's headed our way, we decided to kind of cancel that, but we will be rolling October the 17th and the 24th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There has been a group of community leaders that have come together and got with the churches to make sure that we actually help get people down to the polls on those Saturdays. And I just want to do a shout out of some of the churches that within the city that are participating in this. Now, I'm going to say this. We do also have churches in the outer skirts of Mobile, in the county areas, Irvington, up in Cushler. So if anybody is up in that area, I want to give you my number again. Please call me so I can get you connected to those churches in those areas. My number is 251-622-7978. For the churches that are in the inner city that will be working on this project with us, is Ainwell Baptist Church, Corinthian Baptist Church, Delaware Street down the Bay, First Baptist down on Baltimore, Friendship Baptist Church out on Cody, Greater Nazarene Baptist Church on Blair Street, Greater Nazarene, Greater Nazarene, Hopewell, Mount Calvary, New Shiloh, St. Peter's down the Bay, True Vine, Whitestone, and Williams Chapel. And the times for those rides are 8:45 a.m., 10:30 a.m., and 12 noon. We will be low doing it safely. Temperatures will be checked, and people must have on masks when they get on the vans, okay? So we're doing it as safe as we can, making people space on those vans, get them down to the site, letting them vote and come on out of there, okay? And that pretty much sums up that.
Ms. Davis, those times again, you went out just a little when you, on that last time period.
Okay. Times, the Saturdays are 8:45 a.m. That's loading time, 8:45 a.m., 10:30 a.m., and 12 noon.
Thank you.
Okay.
That is awesome information. We're talking with these ladies about Educating the Voter 2020. It is part one of a two-part series that will be airing here on the Nspire U Network, so we appreciate you joining us. Lastly, we have with us, she's been waiting patiently for her turn to speak, is Miss Shalila Dowdy. She's with the Alabama Democratic Party as a field organizer. She's going to give us an overview about the actual ballot. We saw the ballot that Miss Williams had up there, and also talk about the amendments that are on the ballot. A lot of folks aren't aware there are some amendments during this general election. Some may pertain to you and your county, and some may not. We live in the great state of Alabama. That's how it works. But she's going to share with some information. Ms. Dowdy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I am about to pull up the ballot right now.
Awesome.
And can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So every 4 years we have a general election, and every 2 years we have our midterms. So I've been talking to citizens throughout the state, and some people just think that this is like the presidential election. But you also have our state senator. One of our state senator positions is up, and every 2 years we elect new representation in Congress. So when you get your ballot, there's a different ballot for every county. You can find this ballot on the Secretary of State website, sos.alabama.gov, and you can search sample ballot, and all the ballots for all, I think we have about 67 counties come up. And there's a different ballot for every county because there are also local races on the ballot. So you can vote straight party, and it could be a bit confusing. So you see Alabama Democratic Party, Alabama Republican Party. Unfortunately, there are positions that only have Republicans running for office, and what people fail to understand is running for office is expensive. Just to run for Congress, the fee you pay is about $3,400 just to run. So we have a lot of positions that only have Republicans running, and if you vote straight party, you do not have to select, you do not have to bubble in the bubbles next to the Republican name just because there's no Democrat president. So we have the presidential race, Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Kamala Harris, and then you have the current president and the current vice president. And we also have a third party candidate, Joe Jorgensen, for our state. And a lot of people aren't aware that there's a third party person running as well. Followed by our Senate race. So a lot of people are like, wait, Doug Jones is back on the ballot. Then we just elected him December 2017. Well, that was a special election. We lost our current senator, who was the senator at that time, was Jeff Sessions, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions. He went to be the attorney general on the national level, which left our Senate position vacant. So his seat would have been up this year anyway. So Doug Jones filled that seat for about a little roughly around 2.5 years. So he is running against Tommy Tuberville, who's the next Auburn football coach. And that's really not even being funny. That's really his background. He doesn't have any political experience. He was previously a football coach at Auburn. That's his ties to our state, but he's also coached in Ohio and in Mississippi as well. And then we have our congressional race. So Mobile is in the 1st congressional district. We have 7 congressional districts in the state of Alabama. District 5 and 6 only have Republicans running. District 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 have a Republican and a Democrat running. We have James Aberhart. He's a 30-year Marine. He's executive director with the NAACP, and he's running against Jerry Carl, who is currently a county commissioner. And the county commissioner position is also on the ballot. You have a bunch of Supreme Court positions on the state level that only have Republicans running. Greg Shaw, Brad Meadham. I say looking at the ballot beforehand, it just informs you so that when you see the ballot, when you go vote, that's not the first time you're seeing the ballot. You need to do your research and learn about who these people are that are running. Additionally, we have, like, all these positions are just judge positions that there's a few that have a Democrat running. And once you get past all the judge positions, they are state level, and we have a Mobile County Court District position. So we have some state positions and local positions. You have the Mobile County License Commissioner, our County Revenue Commissioner, the County Treasurer, and some school board positions on the state level. We have, depending on what district you live in, there's also some local names for the school board as well. And then we have our county commissioners. So we have like our city councilor and our mayor, but outside of that, if you don't live in the city of Mobile, you live in like Grand Bay or Creola, Satsuma, that's not the city of Mobile. And so we have county commissioners that cover the rest of our county. Those are our leaders that are outside the city council. So people are really unaware of that position. And so, like I stated, someone running for Congress, Jerry Carl, is one of our county commissioners at this moment. And I think he's county commissioner 3, but he's not, obviously he can't run for that position because he's running for Congress. So just look up the names of these people. Everybody has an online presence. They have websites. They have social media presence, see what their stance is on particular legislation and what their beliefs are, so that when you do vote, you're not voting blindly. And you should do this with every election. Local elections are just as important as national elections. And as you can see on this November 3rd ballot, you got national, state, and local positions that are being contested. And so our ballot won't necessarily have all these precincts. It just depends on which precinct that you are in. But these are constables that are running across the county. And so one of the most important things that a lot of people have questions on concerning the elections are the amendments. Once again, the amendments can be found on the Secretary of State website. So just some information about amendments. We have our national constitution, which is a living document, and it being living means that changes can be made. So our state level Constitution is the same way. These amendments are proposed changes that we can have occur to our Alabama state constitution. So Alabama has the longest and one of the most amendment constitutions in our country. I always hear people talk about the 1901 Alabama Constitution. And our Constitution is so controversial because it has some language in there that it's a bit racial. And so we're trying to improve upon the Constitution, and that's what some of these amendments are. So I'm about to go over them real quickly. I won't necessarily tell you how to vote. That's still up to you, but I might tell you what I might do. So additionally, with our Constitution, it gives the state legislators the ability to micromanage some of our counties. So some of our counties can't make decisions on their own without the state level leaders playing a role in there. So you'll see that with like Amendment 5 and 6 that don't have anything to do with Mobile County, but it's the state micromanaging what they are able to do. So the First Amendment, I necessarily won't read them all because some of them are a bit lengthy, but the First Amendment is centered around citizenship, and it's proposing an amendment to the Constitution to amend Article 8 of the Constitution, now appearing as Section 177, and it states that they want to amend to provide that only a citizen of the United States has the right to vote. And this amendment is kind of redundant because that currently is how things are in Alabama. There are some jurisdictions around the country where non-citizens are able to vote in local elections. Even if they're not a citizen, they might be here on a green card or, you know, be here for work. And because they live in the area, they're able to vote, but that's really not the case in our state. So they're just trying to reinforce that, you know, you can only vote in anything in our state if you are a citizen. And so the Second Amendment is a bit lengthy, but it talks about Judiciary Inquiry Commission. So they want to increase how many people are on that commission, along with so if approved, it would provide that county district courts no longer have to hold city court in cities with a population less than 1,000. It would also allow the Alabama Supreme Court, rather than the Chief Justice, to appoint the administrative director of courts. And the Second Amendment would increase the membership, like I stated, of the Judiciary Inquiry Commission from 9 to 11. And Amendment 2 would allow the government, rather than the governor, rather than the lieutenant governor, to appoint a member of the court judiciary. So the Second Amendment has a lot of things that would come about if it is approved. So just be sure to look into that amendment and understand what is being asked. And it also talks about if any disciplinary issues occur within the judiciary. So you have judges that might not behave might not conduct themselves in a orderly manner. And it just talks about who has the leadership and the authority to reprimand them. So Amendment 3 is proposing to change a judge vacancy seat that is filled from 1 year to 2 years. So normally if a judge vacancy occurs, it's because someone, you know, wanted to change careers or possibly or somebody died in office. And so right now when you're appointed, you sit there for a year. And they're trying to change it to 2 years. So 1 year means you're sitting in the seat and then you got to run for the position after you have been appointed. 2 years means you're able to sit in the seat, you know, give your full attention to the position and not have to worry about being reelected. Me personally, our country doesn't always appoint the right people into some of these positions. So I personally feel like they should stay at 1 year and let the people decide if they stay in that seat or if somebody else replaces them, because appointments are not always the greatest thing. I feel like the people should play a role in that process. Yeah. Amendment 4. So like I stated, our Constitution has some racial lingo in it that needs to be updated and amended. And so basically, I'm gonna have to stop sharing my screen so I can pull up my notes. But basically with Amendment 4, it allows the legislature to remove certain language from our Constitution. So they're able to recompile the Alabama Constitution and submit it during the 2022 session and provide a process for its ratification by the voters to the state. So it will allow the legislation, to basically get rid of some of the racial language, some of the homophobic language that exists within our Constitution. And for example, Section 256 of the Alabama Constitution states, and this is in our Constitution right now, separate schools shall be provided for white and colored children, and no child of either race shall be permitted to attend a school of the other race. And so the document needs to be cleaned up. They're gonna take out the racial language, but they're gonna not change the rights and privileges that we have. We have these rights and privileges to go to school, you know, go to whatever school you want to go to. But that language still exists in our Constitution. And so then Amendment 5 and 6 doesn't really have much to do with Mobile County. I'm going to pull the amendments back up. It's centered around Franklin and I think Lauderdale County.
I believe you're right.
So it's Franklin County and Lauderdale County. And so it's basically centered around the stand your ground law. And basically if you're able to, you know, conduct if you're able to adhere to self-defense if you're on a church property. And so Amendment 5 is for Franklin and Amendment 6 is for Lauderdale County. Same thing, different counties. And so with that being said, this is just the state's way of micromanaging the counties. So they're letting the whole state vote on this, even though you don't reside in those counties. So, you know, you can vote as you very well please on 5 and 6, but for 4, definitely yes, we need to remove that racial language out of our Constitution and bring our Constitution to the 2020 year. Like we're not in 1901 anymore, and we're a growing society. And also on the Mobile County ballot, y'all, I know everybody's heard about the pay-as-you-go toll bridge. You can either be for or against it. I personally am against it because that's a lot of money for anybody going back and forth across the bridge to Baldwin County. A lot of people still make minimum wage. And I just think that what we have right now is just fine. I mean, I know it can be bringing in revenue for the city, but it can also hurt people who barely make enough to get by now. And that's about all I have.
I have a question, Shalila, and this is for, this is, you know, just to educate our viewers, especially the new voters. So on the ballot, you have the Democratic Party, you have the Republican Party, and then you have all of these names listed individually. If one chooses either ticket and fills in the bubble for Democratic Party or Republican Party, do they still need to go through and fill out bubbles for the rest of the names on the ballot?
You necessarily don't have to, but I would highly suggest that you do.
Okay.
You know, just to reconfirm, like, my people are being picked, because you just never know. And you know, it just feels good to be able to fill in whoever you want to fill in for. I don't want to promote a candidate, but fill in whoever you want to fill in for. But it's not necessary that you do that, but I would definitely, you know, you want to make sure your vote's counted. You don't know what the machine sees, and we have voter suppression is real in our country. I will say that, and it's across the border in many states. So you can vote, you can select that straight party bubble, but I would also go and fill in whatever party that you were voting for, fill in a bubble next to the name.
Thank you. Al, you have anything else for me?
I think that's all. I've really enjoyed it. I don't have anything else to ask these young ladies. They've educated me, and I try to be as informed as I can, but I even learned something today too, Candace.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much again for all of this information. Very informative. As Al said, I learned some things today. You know, you're never too old to learn something new, and I'm sure that our viewers appreciate the information because there are so many questions out there. So Al, if you don't have anything else, I guess we can.
No, I'm good, Candace.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you so much. And again, I want to say thank you to my friend, Zandra Thornton, for coming to us with this idea and for putting this panel together. Thank you so much, Zandra. Thank you to our viewers. As always, thank you for tuning into the Nspire U Network. Please continue to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And as always, we'll see you next time. Please stay tuned. We'll have the slides at the end with all of the websites and the information for you. So get a pen and paper, jot that down, and get registered and go vote. Thank you.
Inspire you.